Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're checking out Crassio, the GOAT. Now, I do apologize it took me so long to make this video. It's just I've had a busy weekend, had a Bucks weekend and stuff like that. So, a bit late getting onto this one. We are on the test server here on my guild trials. So, on my guild trials, I did it at enemy level 615. I thought that was a fair testing range just to get an idea. I don't like using always just full meta teams. So, we got a few little spicy things in here. A couple towards the end I just gave up and just did a bit more meta, but the thing with doing meta is we get to look at his damage compared to some other units at this deficit, so I thought it was a bit interesting. So let's jump into it. So the first team we're going to look at, so my sort of thoughts around him are the survival that he brings really isn't as much as I thought it was going to be. Stuff still dies super easy. The problem with the damage mitigation is it's kind of like the star issue. It's like at a certain deficit, the mitigation doesn't matter anymore and things just die. However, I was very impressed with his damage output. So the survival in some situations, yes, is great. But, you know, at some point it does just not really make too much relevance. However, especially when the ally is alive, his damage potential is super nice because tied into his furniture. So let's take a look. So this one here, as you can see, we've gone with the Mishka and Namora in the front. The Namora was there just to charm the Odin at the very start. We just then went Navanthi for some heals because I wasn't planning on Namora to be around long. She's just there for the mind control to start. And then Navanthi for heals. And then Spearboy and the Goat for my 2 DPS. The idea being that they both lunge and we just sort of nuke some shit. So that was the idea here. Now, I did have him above Spearboy, the idea being that, you know, he protects him a bit more and offers that survivability. So let's take a look at this one. We'll go down to like 1x speed. Let's take a look. So we got that charm straight on the Odin, which is perfect. He portaled the Mahira, which is good. Then we get the jump from the Mishka, get the death break and stuff like that. Namora's already down. Like I said, I didn't expect Namora to be around too long. And there we go. Now and like I said, they just deal some really solid damage. Now, Taunt, when you fight enemy Taunts, once he starts stacking those bones, he can be incredibly tanky and really hard to deal with. But these two just sort of managed to shred through him, just pure like just brute strength through him, which I was really impressed with. So honestly, I'm really happy with that damage potential between him and Spearboy. Like I said in one of my previous videos when I went through Spearboy, his damage is just really solid, and this guy completely matched him in this. And you know, in different situations, I think he could out damage Spearboy, but that is what we ended up with there. Pretty solid DPS. Moving on to the next one. Now, this one was quite impressive because Kren spent a fair bit of time ulting and he has just churned out the damage. And you know, like Brutus can deal solid damage as well, but this was really solid. Now, the thing that I went into this team doing when I went into the idea of Kren, my thought was, you know how when you use Kren, and quite often Kren will commit suicide by going in to knock back the enemy. My thought was I'd have him above Kren and that would be like the perfect thing. For some reason, the way RNG worked, when I had him above Kren would just die anyway, so that just didn't work. But then when I had him above Brutus, it meant that Brutus was surviving better, meaning he could keep his buff up, meaning that he could actually just deal the damage and not even worry about it. So let's jump in here, and then we got Mortis for the buffs, and then we got Thane in here, because Thane's just... his prison just works really, and the rolling logs just works so well with Kren. So that was my idea there. So let's jump in and take a look. As you can see, he's going to teleport straight down here. Get straight onto the Solus, and like we bombed them all. We're looking pretty solid. So the first one to go ahead and get buffed was him anyway, so you know he does get that advantage. And now Kren does his ult. Now, like I said, that damage was insane. We already had 2 enemies down by the time Kren even gets around to his ult. So we do the juggling, but like I said, the damage from Crassio, the GOAT, I just find it really quite solid, to be honest. I was quite impressed with that. So that one was a big surprise to me when I saw those damage numbers. I thought it was sick. So then we jump into the next team. So if you haven't been paying attention to me, you know I love the floppy Mulan combo. And Mulan can deal absolute savage amounts of damage when you use her in this comp. Even if you put other like big damage dealers in, I find Mulan just always excels in that grouped up type damage. Now, obviously with the GOAT, he excels in group damage as well because he has all those AoEs. And then what I did in this team after I tested him in the Brutus one is like, okay, if I put him above a chunky unit, then they're going to stay alive and he's going to be able to deal damage. This is when I shifted my thinking away from what I was trying to do here in protecting a unit to just having him keep his buff up by having him protect a tanky unit. Then I brought Chad into the team just because Chad brings that solid CC on grouped enemies. So he was in the back row, but that's fine. Didn't really matter. And Mulan doesn't really need the survivability. Like I could have put Chad front and this guy back, but yeah, it just worked out this way. So let's just jump into it and take a look. Once again, Mulan gets that early CC, really solid. Floppy goes in, groups them up, and then we're pretty much solid. And once again, we also have Rook that can do the group as well. So pretty solid in general in that sense. So as you can see, Crassio, the GOAT, gets pretty low there, but then he does just manage to come back up. And then as soon as we start ulting with Mulan, and then he gets his ult, like we just shred the damage through that. So that was really solid. We do get some nice buffs in that team from both Floppy and Chad. So just increasing that damage capabilities of those two is really nice. The other thing that I forgot to show you guys was the relics. Dude, it's really slow to do it this way. I don't know a faster way. I could go into the battle and then show you them. So we'll do that in a sec. And I'll come back and show you relics because people always ask me. Just keep in mind when I show you the relics, I normally try the battle, and if it doesn't work, then I adjust relics. Some of my relic placements are just absolutely horrid, so just keep that in mind. So this one here, this enemy team was a Lucretia Tassi team. It was giving me the shit, so I just ended up Thorin cheesing it. Literally, he does nothing. He just dies. It was all I had. I'm sorry. It was just, this battle was just giving me the shit. So watch here. He's going to die any second now. Actually, lives a little bit. But yeah. Literally, Thorin cheese with Matria so that she can come back and finish it off. Like, that was my only strat. That was lazy. I know. Sorry, guys. That's all I had. That's all I had. I'm sorry. And this one here, so this one I did Ulna Grazul with Graveborns with Pharrell and Odin, but I just wanted to test his damage. And once again, his damage was pretty solid compared to the Grazuls, considering that this team, you know, like we had the grouping as well. So the Odin was pretty solid at allowing him to try and max out the damage. But honestly, that compared to a Grazul in a pretty drawn out fight, I was pretty happy with. Like, you know, I thought it was pretty solid. Let me know what you guys think. But I feel like that was a pretty solid performance against this team. Now, this was a pretty long drawn out fight. I'm just going to put it on 4x speed to speed it up. But as you can tell, there was some split damage there for a while. But then once we get them all grouped up, this is when it's his time to shine. He can deal that group damage. And we're pretty well set from there. We did lose the Ulna, but in general, we were pretty solid. Now, once again, we do start swapping units around with Odin. So it's not perfect grouping like the Floppy Mulan or anything like that. But in general, I thought it was pretty solid, and I thought that damage was quite respectable. But like I said, something like this was just nuts, and I thought his performance in general was pretty decent. So that's sort of my first testing, my thoughts about him. I think he works better as a DPS unit as opposed to the survival type support unit, and pretty much basically for him every time. Now, I did try him in a 5 pull to protect the Iron, but he just wasn't protecting enough and it just wasn't working out. But basically, for the artifacts, in every one of these, I had him on Dual Divinity. Dual Divinity is just the way to go for him. It's hard to have a Ranger and not put Dual Divinity on them, unless you're doing like a 5 pull. It just makes sense. It's just too good. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. Have you tested anything else? Let me know. I really like him. I like that playstyle, and I think he's not like, doesn't feel completely broken, but he doesn't feel trash. He just feels like a well-balanced unit. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.